and I had one guy in the warehouse today, and he had to make a half a dozen runs back and forth, and had to cancel an install that we were supposed to start Thursday. We were on one yesterday. We had to leave, so it's been interesting. And then we had two big events. Another one for New Year's Eve canceled, and we had one the first week of January just canceled on us, all because of COVID. So
Yeah, I just
A
lost
friend that went to the
uh,
SBSG Awards in New York City, I think it was last week or 2 weeks ago, and he came home with COVID,
hmm.
and he was vaccinated.
Yeah.
Oh, we just lost your mic, Fred. I hope that.
Oh, I said
I
he
think
was
you're back.
vaccinated.
Uh-oh.
Oh,
It's
okay.
our
Well,
nearest
this
side.
is cool because I can't hear anybody now.
Uh-oh.
Did I lose you guys, or is everybody?
We can hear you.
Let me
We
do
can
it
hear
this way.
you.
Yeah.
We hear you.
We hear everybody.
Yep, I hear everybody. What happened is my AirPod Pro that is supposedly just perfect went out just there. How is that possible? I don't know. Everybody and nobody has problems with Apple CarPlay or with Apple AirPods or whatever. I have problems with all of it. I don't know why. How could I have such bad luck? And Apple's going to be $1 trillion company if it's not already a $1 trillion company already. That's
Come
pretty
away
amazing.
from the dark side, Jan. Come away from the dark side.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
beat that, yeah.
Well, yes, and go to the other side, which is just as dark, you know.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It just seems like it's got a mind of its own. When it wants to do something, it just does it. It's like. Do you guys? Okay, so I don't know if this happens to you, but you get in your car, right? And you turn on your car, and you have shut off. Last time you left, you shut off your radio, and you definitely don't have anything playing in the background on your phone. And the second you get in, man, all of a sudden, whatever you were playing like a week ago comes on to the radio. Does that happen to you guys?
It's Bluetooth.
Yeah, Bluetooth. Yeah, exactly. It just automatically kicks in. So
Yeah,
so
that's the
it's
nature of the protocol. It's good, but also bad.
Yeah, so if you have something private going on and you're in make sure that you don't have something private if there's someone else sitting in your car when you turn it on. Otherwise, it won't be private for long. So that's my tip of the week. And let's welcome everybody from Facebook and YouTube. Thanks for coming. This is our New Year's show. Basically, we're going to talk about whatever comes to mind because there's really not a lot of news out there except for the Omicron thing, and I guess we all have our opinions on what that's all about. But just remember, anything you hear today is an opinion, so just do your own research and let's get into it. Welcome everybody. Thanks for coming. I guess New Year's is really right around the corner now, right?
Yeah, with all this weather, they're gonna cancel a bunch of shows, at least in this part of the world.
Yes, and in Tampa too, they canceled St. Petersburg. That I was going to work on New Year's Eve, and I spent an hour and a half on a Zoom call with the NCAA folks. Trying to figure out a way to get the Outback Bowl here at Raymond James Stadium to actually go off. It's going to be really 6-hour testing, when we get there. Kickoff is at noon. It's a 5 a.m. call. And yeah, my nose is going to hurt by the end of the game. And I'm sorry, Steve, that, you're there, but it's so easy to get it.
Yeah, they say they say this is like 7 times more contagious, but it's in the head and it's a very light COVID, but still those people that haven't been vaccinated are the ones that are suffering, and because they're the ones that are suffering, they're making everybody suffer from that standpoint of view. From even here in Thailand, those people that have been vaccinated have very mild cases, but those people that don't are getting seriously ill and are forcing the hospitals to overload themselves. Plus, there's such a limit now on nurses. I was just reading an article that so many of the nurses have quit. You know, that they're no longer,
They're
they don't
burned
want to
out.
do the job anymore.
They're burned out. You know, it's been 2 years of nonstop. So I don't blame them.
Yeah, I don't blame them either. It's you know, it's a thankful job in the normal times, you know, because when you go into a hospital and the nurse is treating you, you know, you're really thankful for that. But with COVID, you can't even see who they are because they're dressed in, you know, like these radioactive suits, you know, and
Moon
you
suits.
can't even see moon suits. Yeah. So. You know, I feel sorry. I feel sorry for those people, and then of course we were talking about flying, and now it's, you know, there's still violence on the planes because of the mask thing. It's crazy.
There's always
It's just-
parents that are going to be out there.
Yeah,
So,
it's
Steve,
just
do you
crazy.
know what variable you have?
The only thing I saw on the report was it was COVID SARS-2. So I'm not even sure which one it is. If it's the original, my neighbor, I don't know where he got his information from. He says it's the original. It's not the new one. So I don't know. But
But the best part about it,
the
the best part about it is you don't even know you've got it. That's the best part. I mean, you
Yeah.
know, if you have it, you know it's mild, you're able to function, but you know that
Right.
you've got it, so you have to quarantine and isolate. You know, which is the smart thing to do and the safe thing for you to do.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you know, what can I say? And it is affecting everything. I mean, it's affecting the airlines. How many flights? Did anybody get affected by any flights canceling?
Kurt did.
I did, big time.
Yeah. And what was that like?
Well, we got invited to check in. I went through the whole process and, you know, did all that on my phone. And then the next morning, the flight was canceled. And then there were no more direct flights at all for several days. So I could have ended up in San Jose. And then I would have been stuck there because I know the weather's coming back to where I am. So we just got lucky and made it on standby, the last 2 seats.
I know a crew just showed up in Spokane this morning, and they canceled the basketball game. So a bunch of the guys decided they wanted to leave, and my friend was like, "Why? We're here. We're getting paid to be here. We have a hotel. We have a rental car. Why are you stressing to go home?" And some of the guys paid $900 for a one-way ticket to get something, just to have their connection cancel, and they still didn't get home. So now they're stuck in an airport without a hotel and other stuff. I mean, it's insane.
Yep. Got to roll with it.
Yeah, I mean, if you're there and you've got a ticket there and a ticket back and you've got a place to stay, why not stay? Who cares if the game's canceled? Go do some shopping. Go out and play in the snow if you're not from there.
Or hang out at the lounge. Who cares? You know. So yeah, but you know, Fred, you're right. All the major sports franchises right now are getting extremely serious, you know, about this, you know, especially the NFL. They're over the top right now.
Well, the NBA is going to go back to doing world feeds again. They're already planned a setup day for next week to go back and start doing, you know, home and away feeds out of the same truck, going back to just like it was during the lockdown.
Yeah, I agree. You know,
I have a visitor show scheduled for next week, but I don't think they're going to let me do it. I mean, it's still on the books. Nobody's canceled me, but I'm going to guess that it's going to go away.
Yeah, it will be. I mean, I got canceled for last week's Buccaneers game at the last minute. They just said, no, we're going to handle it ourselves. And there were so many dropouts. So I got the call back. You know.
Well, it's good to see that you're working. I mean, I guess a lot of us are working, except for me. I'm like taking a vacation, but it's kind of weird. I'm on vacation now, and I'm really on vacation. I'm really making a concerted effort not to work. But I noticed that when I don't check my email for like a day, it's overwhelming when you go back to it. So you're like, even though you're on vacation, I'm forced to be checking my emails.
Is that
Are
why
you
my
in another new
consoles
place?
Is that why my consoles are still sitting in Alabama?
No, I don't know. That was something that we'd have to talk to Tina, and you could see Tina's not in the room. So
Are you in
no,
another new place?
we are closed. The office is closed for the holidays. We're back on the 3rd, but I thought that was just a really nice thing to do, to give take some time off.
I've been waiting for them
to
since 1989. I don't think another week is going to matter.
Very, very good. Yeah. I don't even know anything about that, to be blunt with you, except I know that Tina, well, this is not the place or time to be talking about SoundBroker business, but it's okay. We'll talk later.
All right.
Have you changed places again, Jan? Your background looks different, and your pictures that you've been posting on Facebook looks like you're in a new city or a new hotel or a new condo.
Okay.
You were on an island, weren't you?
We were on Kasamui, which is an island off of an island. I'm on an island right now, which is Phuket, which is in the south of Thailand, or not quite all the way south, but pretty much south. Not to the point, but we are in Phuket. You could just Google it on the map. But we went to an island which was north of Phuket, which is called Koh Samui, which is just basically gorgeous. I mean, turquoise water, beautiful white sand beaches, just everything, just so picturesque. And that's where we were when the Bangkok situation came down. So for those of you who don't know, I took a trip to Chupan, which is is halfway between Phuket and Bangkok, to visit her, my girlfriend's family, where they have a coconut plantation, which is pretty cool. I've never been to a coconut plantation before. And basically all it is a bunch of coconut trees, and you have to watch that you don't get killed by falling coconuts, But there is some controversy over there in the coconut world, because they use monkeys to get the coconuts down, and they feel that that's slave labor for the monkeys, so there is a controversy going on. The animal rights activists feel that that they're abusing the monkeys, and I guess they're not even paying them bananas. So you can't even get a monkey to work, for bananas. And they say working for peanuts, but I guess that's elephants that work for peanuts. I don't know who works for peanuts. I guess peanut farmers work for peanuts.
All of us work for peanuts at one point or another.
Yeah,
Some of us still do.
Whenever what I have found is whenever you're doing something for your soul, something that you want to do, there are plenty of people there to take advantage of you. I remember when I was working in the A&R world of the record business back in the 80s, it's, just the opportunity to do it. I would have done it for free if I could have survived for free. But basically, they were paying me like I was working for free. I was barely getting by with the salary that they were paying me, but it was a cream job. It was a great job. I loved the job. But I found that, look at a musician, and you'll see, all the guys that start off playing, they're playing for free. You would never ask a plumber to come over your house for dinner and say, hey, oh, by the way, while you're here, could you fix my toilet? But if you're a guitar player or a piano player or singer, hey, why don't you bring your guitar and come on, play for free for everybody at the house, and that's common, and people do that. And I see why some celebrities, stars, that once they make it, they have a lot of resentment for all the times they had to play for free. I've never worked with Ed Sheeran, but I've heard that he played for years on the street, that he was a street performer for years. And, the guy doesn't even have a phone right now. The last article I read, he doesn't have a cell phone. And so it's kind of interesting.
Right.
And I wonder what it's like.
I did the opening gig he played before the opening NFL game, and that's how I fell into all of this, because all of the union folks, here in Florida, it was highly political, and they were going down. The steward was going down the list, and the guy said, "I'm not going to wear a mask, and it's my constitutional right not to get vaccinated." And he said, "Okay, thank you. Have a nice day." And he went down the list, and then my phone rang. So, but Sheeran is a good guy.
Yeah. So anyway, speaking of that, so then and what I really liked about the family is they're of modest means. He makes good money, but they live modest means, and nothing goes to waste. So when the coconut, the palms of the coconut fall down, they harvest them and they build roofs. He builds roofs with the coconut. So anyway, it was a very interesting experience, and to see where my girlfriend grew up and how it affected her as a human being. And she's the youngest of 9 children, and so anyway, so we went to visit her folks, and then the next leg we were going to Bangkok, and this was our vacation. But when we got to Bangkok, I had a problem with Chase Bank again with one of my clients. So basically, I had sold the stage. Everything was going just perfectly. It was the easiest sale I had ever made in my life until I go to pay the guy his share of the money, the seller. And then fraud is what Chase Bank said is what was happening. And it took 4 days from Thursday to Monday to get this settled, and I'm up at 5 up to all hours of the night dealing with Chase Bank, because every time you call them, you get a message saying, "Hi, Chase Bank, we're here. We're going to give you the ultimate of service. Your hold time will be 50 minutes." 50 minutes. That's not the ultimate of service for me. If you have to hold for 50 minutes, it's not the ultimate of service. And then what I found out, by the way, if you keep calling back and the hold is over an hour, then they will call you back. But up to an hour, you have to wait on hold. And so here I am in a hotel room on a cell phone holding for 50 minutes. It was a nightmare keeping the girl up. And so as a bonus to her, I said, "Oh, I can't believe she didn't leave me during this period of time." But nonetheless, she said to me, I said, "What can I do to make this up?" She says, "Let's go to Koh Samui." So for a week, we spent a week in Koh Samui. And if you ever get a chance, it should be on your bucket list of things to do. It's just beautiful there. It's just beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. So I hope I answered your question without boring you too much.
It's good to understand what was happening. I thought originally you went to Bangkok, but then
he went to Phuket, Fred, originally.
Yeah, no, that's where I'm living now. I'm living in Phuket, but and this is a beautiful city as well. But Phuket is an island. I'm living in a little town called Rawai, which is mostly expats and locals. There are plenty of other areas on Phuket, like where I originally moved into Surin or Laguna, which is all tourists. But right now, the Thai government just closed down the pass system. So now you cannot get into Thailand. And what they did was the government said to all the restaurants and all the bars and all of the businesses, "Okay, hire up, baby, hire up. This is it. We're going back." And so they brought all of these employees in from the provinces to come work. And in Koh Samui, where I was, I went into a restaurant and there must have been 20 employees for every one customer in the restaurant. The same with the hotel, the same everywhere. And there's going to be a lot of companies, a lot of businesses that are going to go out of business permanently, because it's one thing to be dormant and you could survive, but when you become non-dormant and you staff up again and then you have to cut back again, that could be the death blow for a lot of businesses.
Yeah, and also in our industry, Jan, I mean, due to the order supply chain shortage, small reinforcement companies that are there in well, mainly they work out of Bangkok, they can't get gear. I mean, whether it's Meyer or RCF or D&B or even JPL Vertex, they get a huge contract that may or may not happen, and they got to scale up. They can't get the gear; it's just not available.
I
Well,
mean,
the beautiful thing
look at
about
Dante.
Thailand,
Just as one deal, the Dante people, they can't get the chips. So just look at that ecosystem alone has basically come to a standstill.
It's probably going to kill Audinate.
Tim McCulloch in the room, ladies and gentlemen. Where have you been, Tim? Have you been working? What's been going on?
Why
have
have
we not seen you?
I am an honest man. I work for a living.
Oh, great.
So you were doing Nutcracker Suites and Trans-Siberian Orchestra, right? Tim?
I think Tim is frozen.
Oh,
Yeah.
his mic's muted or his picture's frozen, yes.
Yes. But it is a beautiful blue screen that he's got going on there. Oh, there he is. He's back.
You're muted.
I know the things you have to do to make this damn thing work. It's an original i7, not an i7 5500. It's an i7. This thing's 12 years old, and it doesn't like Zoom too well. And now it says I'm muted. So am I or not? I can't tell.
No, you're unmuted. We can hear you.
Okay, it's just the computer lagging. The Nutcrackers came and went. We swept up all the holes and the fake snow, and away they went. One of the shows went 3 times over their local labor estimate because the production company that was hired to stage the show on behalf of the ballet company, they did everything but the dancing. Was so disorganized, it took 3 times the amount of time to stage the show than they thought it would. So there were some stagehands that made good money for Christmas.
Well, that's good. That's nice. So that way they could share the wealth.
Well,
And,
we can hope so because nobody else is.
Right.
yeah.
The dichotomy, the issue of having work that's coming back and then going away and then coming back and going away, is that once again we can't keep labor either. I had another employee the other day say, "Man, I'm just going to get a job at Home Depot." And I said, "You're going to hate it. I know people that work there." And he goes, "Yeah, but there's benefit. I know the job will be there, and there's benefits, and I can schedule a vacation, and I have sick leave, and all this other stuff we don't get in entertainment."
So how much is it costing all these companies to do all these COVID, protection and the COVID, police force? And I've done shows where there was hundreds of people hired to walk around with yellow jackets on and harass the shit out of people and then take their masks off like nothing was going on. I mean, all that must cost something, I can't even believe that. It's just amazing.
To kind of go there, I can tell you that I have not done a local labor event yet where anybody was the COVID police.
Oh man, almost every show I've done, like we did the Milken show, and there was probably 40 of them in groups of 2 running around harassing people. We
don't see shit here because ASM Global, the primary operator of venues in my region, doesn't care. They will only do. I'm gonna shoot myself here on YouTube. They will only do what the tour or the artist or producer requires and nothing further. So if the tour doesn't care a whole lot, neither do they. If the tour cares a whole bunch, they will. But that's kind of the way it's working with them. And the result is a pretty schizophrenic approach to COVID safety. But, how that's going to shake out, I'll tell you when I find out how many people got infected on the last show, that the local crew was on.
Do you think they're going to keep track of that, Tim, in your neck of the woods? I don't think they're going to.
They have to under OSHA. Now, whether or not they'll do it's another matter. But we do have a collective bargaining agreement with them, and it's a regional agreement, an area master agreement. And we're going to hold their feet to the fire to all of the health provisions in it.
I tell you, I'm going to have to get a bigger cell phone because in my world, I just got off of 3 months of Fox College football, and every stadium I went to, I had to have an app to be able to COVID track me while I was there in order to get my credentials to go in.
Come to Middle America. Come to Middle America, Fred, where nobody cares. They're out here infecting each other like,
That's what I'm saying.
like
I
rabbits
was all
breeding.
across the country. I went from Pennsylvania. I started in Penn State and came all the way across to Texas. So it's everywhere. But even some of the hospitals I go into, and now I just picked up a gig with NBC to do the Olympics. So I've got to be, I guess, clear as a COVID tracking thing.
Well,
So
those are
for me to
real.
go to
Those are
Stanford-
real gigs for real companies that actually care, or are paid to care, or for whom the publicity would be bad enough if they were seen as not caring. The people that run the people that actually run that stadium don't care.
Nope.
They don't. They do not care. They only care to the extent someone forces them to. But when you work in TV, when you work in film, when you work in video, when you work in some of these other things, yes, people do care, and that's because the DGA and the Teamsters and the IA have all signed off on that. And there are consequences for violating those procedures and protocols. But I can tell you, in the live industry that I participate in, they don't give a shit.
And it's obviously not just COVID. After watching that 2020 special on Baldwin and the shooting that happened on the set. Oh my goodness. Jesus, look at the stuff that's going on in the movie industry.
What was the bottom line on that? Because I didn't get to see that from where I am because it wasn't a big story over here. But what was the bottom line on that, Fred?
Now you go ahead, Fred.
They didn't really say. I mean, Baldwin explained the whole thing of what happened, but I guess it's still ongoing. Even the sheriffs and people that they interviewed, they haven't nailed anybody down. I mean, there's two people that they're kind of looking at: the girl who provided the arms and the stuff. And then there was the assistant director, I think, was another suspect. But then you have the company that provided the ammunition, and this and this and this. It was a very in-depth 2020 thing. I bet you could look it up online and watch it. I got back from my 3 weeks up in Seattle, so it was on my TiVo.
Did they say how the live ammunition got there?
No, that's the big point of the investigation.
That's the investigation. There were 7 live rounds found total on site.
And I stress the word found.
Correct.
The rumor mill says there was a lot of loose ammo out there. And that the armorer, bless her heart, she was new. She never had the complete authority she was supposed to have. And the assistant director has a reputation. I do not know if it's deserved, but he has a reputation of playing fast and loose with safety issues. So, it doesn't look good for anybody. And Baldwin is one of the producers. Ultimately, he as producer will be one of the people liable for the damages created by this incident.
Right.
And in this special, they did a little segment also on another company that was shooting something on some train tracks where they weren't authorized to be there. And a train came by and killed one of the people as they were trying to get off the tracks.
Wow. That's amazing. You would think that they would have, really good safety procedures on movie sets, from all of the past accidents they've had, but evidently it just seems that they've got insurance, so they just play fast and loose with the safety regulations.
Well, the analogy on this one is that the budget for this film was the catering budget for some other films. The entire budget for this film was the catering budget for other films.
Wow. Well, I've got a solution for everybody on how to make your life a little bit better. I just read that the national Powerball pot is up to $416 million. And the average American, when polled, when they say, how are you ever going to be successful or rich? They say, I'm going to buy lottery tickets. So, so I highly recommend that you guys get out there, buy lottery tickets, and then you can tell the world where to go. That's it,
Right.
That's
Actually, it's now 445 million, Jan.
Yeah. I could tell you a little quick aside story that when I first moved to Las Vegas, one of my employees said, hey, I got tickets to see one of these gambling, the poker games going on. They were shooting, how they film poker games. And so he says, you want to go? So I said, sure, I got nothing better to do right now, So we go there, and during the break, they come on and they come around to the audience, and they start asking people what they do for a living, and how they came to Las Vegas. And one guy says he's a baker, and one guy said blah blah blah. And I don't know, for whatever reason, when they came to me, they said, well, what do you do for a living? I said, I'm a California lottery winner. And everybody in the room just started cheering like crazy. It was like amazing. It was like, I couldn't believe it, And so then the guy says to me, well, how much did you win? Can I ask you that? I said, yeah, I won $5 on scratching, but I gave it all back. And everybody broke up laughing like crazy, But I don't know where that came from out of my mind, but that's a true story. It's here in Thailand. Everybody buys lottery tickets because they sell them everywhere. I mean, you can't. It's not like where you go into in the United States, where you go to a 7-Eleven or wherever it is, and you tell them the numbers you want. Here they have these like billboard kind of things where they put all the tickets on a like a slab, and then you look through the numbers and pick the numbers you want. And everybody's looking for their license plate number or their birthday or something like that. But they sell an awful lot of tickets, and in every lottery drawing, you could win 12 million baht, which to the average Thai citizen makes them a multimillionaire. So. What
is that actually? About a grand?
No, you divide it by 33, and for them it's 12 million. It's 12 million for them. For us, it would be who's good with math? Anybody?
Well, who cares if you're living in Thailand and you get 12 million baht? Who cares?
Yep, that's right. That's exactly what I said. That's exactly what I said. It's 12 million. It's like when people say to me, when I say to them that if you get caught with a mask, it's a 20,000 baht fine. It's 20,000 baht. When you look at the average salary, that's half. That's the police chief makes 40,000 baht a month on the books. Of course, here it's a great society where everything is
deal.
How do you say it? It's can I pay this ticket here? Yeah. Oh yes, you can. Yes. So.
So Bruce, how are gigs down there in SoCal?
Well, there's been nothing, nothing going on for a few weeks here around Christmas, but I have 2 gigs in January that are local, and one of them I know will happen because we were doing it in studio all through COVID, and this one's going to be in the studio again, and they had planned for this a while back. The second one is in Manhattan Beach Marriott, and it's 6 days. And I wonder, because California is so communist. I wonder if they'll cancel it. And then I have a bunch of more after that are mostly in Florida. So who knows? I mean, I rarely, if I do 5 gigs a year in Los Angeles, I'd be surprised. But
right. Has everybody seen how many people that are pulling out of live CES this year? Oh my goodness.
You know what? A friend of mine was going, actually traveling yesterday to go to CES, and he was wrangling 5 booths. And the producer is a friend of mine that lives in upstate New York. And he, when I talked to him on Facebook yesterday, all of his booths canceled. So my friend never left. When I talked to him this morning. So, I haven't heard, I didn't even know CES was happening, to be honest. I had thought that they weren't going to do it. And just last week I heard that CES was happening. So that whole thing kind of surprised me. But
yeah, I thought they were going virtual. Same thing with NAB. NAB was originally on the books, and then they changed it to virtual.
That's what I had heard. So when a friend of mine said that he was going out for CES, it really surprised me. And I said, who are you working for? And he told me, and we talk regularly. So, last night I said, so you're going to work with my friend in Vegas? And he said, no, I just canceled the whole thing. I canceled him because all my booths canceled. So I was totally surprised.
There's some folks that considered CES last year to be, or in 2020 to be, the original super spreader event.
You know what? Anytime there's more than 100 people in the room, they call it a super spreader event. So, you take that one with a grain of salt.
Yeah, but consider where most of those exhibitors come from, and consider, the time at which it happened, which was before everybody really thought it was here. And
Last 3 weeks ago, I did a big convention in LA, and nobody made a peep. They had a COVID-19 tent set up, and everybody was, every 3 days we were getting checked. But there was probably, there's maybe a couple of thousand people at that event. But
Yeah. I just read an article in, I think it was Polestar, about NAMM, and the registration for Believe in Music, the online global celebration of music, is now open. And so that's from January 20th to January 21st. But if I remember correctly, Believe in Music, wasn't that NAMM? And that the NAMM show, right? So evidently this year they're not going to have NAMM again, at least not in January at Anaheim. I guess they're going to be doing it through the online world.
Yes,
Yeah,
we're back to back.
I signed up for it a few weeks ago, and then I got another email this morning that said it was officially open today, but for previous members, you were able to register like 3 weeks ago.
Yeah. So I think, look, nobody knows what's going on. Nobody can tell you what's going to happen, because if this is the Omicron, so what's going to LMNOP? So what's going to be the next, major setback for us that's going to happen? Because obviously something's going to happen, because as viruses mutate, they get weaker and they spread faster. So, we'll see what happens. But
what I'm worried about I'm more bald than you, and Jan. I
think it's follically challenged.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. But I did have a very good time in the chemical years. But I'm worried if somebody gets Omicron, who also has Delta, and then seizes at somebody, and now we got Penelope. I don't know what the next letter is, and then we're in big trouble.
Well, let's see what happens. I like to be optimistic, especially because right now this is the time of year where I'm setting my New Year's resolutions, and
yeah, my New Year's resolution is not to work Times Square, when the ball drops. Talking about a super spreader event. Oh my goodness.
That's going to be, I hear the flu is back too now. So from what I've read, and of course it's cold everywhere now. And I guess there's one good thing about living in California and Seattle in that area now, is that the snow is going to be so magnificent this year that it's going to increase the snow cap, so that there might be a lack of a water shortage. There actually might be some surplus water this year, which would be wonderful.
Nice to see Lake Mead fill up again.
Yeah, no kidding.
It'll be a long time before that happens. Yeah, they're seeing parts of Lake Mead they haven't seen since they built the dam.
Yeah, I guess
a lot of our snow in California is not going to Lake Mead. It's going to come down into Shasta and the California, what is that river, and they'll just wash it out to the ocean because they're saving the little fish that aren't supposed to be there anyway.
Well, I'm thinking, if it gets any lower, they're going to start to see some of the bodies that the gangsters threw into Lake Mead, in the heydays.
Hey, they're in the dam. They're in the dam.
That's what I think. Jimmy Hoffa might be there as well. So
they would have had to fly him out. They weren't going to spend that kind of money. He's under the end zone at Giant Stadium. I don't care what anybody says.
Yeah, that's what I was told too. Is at Giant Stadium.
Yeah.
No, there was an article in the paper just last week that they said they have a hot lead that he's somewhere in New Jersey right now, buried under something. Yeah. That could be a good way to get the landfill cleaned, So does anybody have any resolutions?
Keep on gigging.
Fish
You know,
more.
I mean, look for a job that pays you twice as much, that you have to work an hour a day with an hour for lunch. That's about the kind of job that I'm looking for right now. Just
only
work,
want 6
1
months
hour a day
vacation
with an hour.
I just want 6 months vacation twice a year, Jan. That's it.
Yeah, something like that. Nothing.
And,
Go to a-
and,
go to
meal,
a-
and meals
remote.
and meals covered.
Meals covered. Hey, and I go to a show and be a civilian instead of working the darn thing. Actually maybe enjoy it.
Yeah. I hear Andrew Bocelli is coming to Phuket. I just don't know if it's true or not, but it seems like he would be coming. They seem
It
to
ain't
make.
gonna happen.
Isn't
I
Fred
don't know.
Lecter Andrews and his sound guy?
Who?
You know Fred Lecter, don't you?
Oh
in Vegas?
yeah.
Isn't he?
Yeah.
Isn't he Bocelli's sound person? He does somebody big like that. You could probably give him
Yeah.
a buzz or text him and find out. But
Yeah, you can call Fred. I know Fred.
yeah,
Yeah.
I thought you did. Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's amazing how many people I do know. But you don't know what they do. You really don't know their history until you hear something like on like Vince Edwards' show, or Behind the Backstage Pass, or what was that other show that both Kenny Newman and myself, we all got interviewed, How We Made It Loud. When you hear about the stories about how people have progressed in their life into where they are today, you have no idea what people have done in their lives, because you just know us as who we are today, and not where we've been or what we've done, how many bands we've been in or not been in, or what we've done, or how much drugs we've done or not done, or
How many
whatever.
most wanted lists you've been on? How many posters of
Right.
you were in the post office?
Yeah.
And,
Right.
Yeah,
How
the
many
benefit.
countries have you been kicked out of?
Yeah.
You hear some of these. Yep. 4.
Oh, lucky! I'm a piker, man. I aspire to your greatness, Greg. I aspire to your greatness.
Yeah. I was
Yeah.
out with Kaja Gugu and the entire crew. Got deported from Thailand, and it took me 21 years in order to get back into Thailand.
So,
What
Greg,
the
let me
heck
put
did
you
you
on the
do?
spot. Greg, let me put you on the spot. I'm going to put you on the spot. So, tell me, if I would say to you, what is the most memorable experience that you've had in your life? What would come to your mind? Why don't we go through the room like that? What would be your most memorable experience that that you've had? You've had in your career.
In my career, 2. Frank Sinatra at the Albert, and
What, you had sex with him?
no, I was doing front of house, dude.
Oh, okay.
That's a
I
whole
was
different
doing
kind
Frank
of
Sinatra.
slime.
How do I know what that means? Here I am,
And he was doing
Yeah.
them in front of house. That took some balls.
Yeah, that's it. Did you hold him in one hand, Fred? I mean, Greg,
No.
did you have a...
Gotcha.
No. And the second one, this is old school, but it was Tubular Bells, also at the Albert. It's one of the best sounding halls in the world. And that was, we had 192 channels. This was analog gear. It was with IES, and we took up an entire row. There were 7 engineers and full quad. So any one of the engineers could, Mavis consoles have a joystick that you can, move it around. And we patched it all the way through. No VCA, no nothing. It was truly amazing. So those 2, and not in my career, but the first time I set foot into the Kingdom of Bhutan.
Cool. Yeah, because that's an important thing. It's not just has to be with your, it could be a birth of someone in your life, or the high. But I would say more a highlight of your career, because that's what we all are. So, who else wants to share? Does anybody else want to share what the highlight of their, one of the highlights, the most memorable thing of their careers? Anybody else?
Well, one of those slap yourself upside the head moments was the day I had a 25-minute conversation about anything but music with Chris Christopherson and had no clue who he was at the moment. And they called him to the stage. Literally, we're hanging back talking. I'm not really paying that much attention to him. I'm watching the stage or going through monitor check. And they go, "Hey, where's Chris?" And he goes, "Oh, hey, bud, I got to go. Nice talking to you." And I'm like, "Oh,
discussions in the back lounge of the bus, and just being the same, just treating everybody the same,
Yeah.
So,
Well, one of my highlights in my career was hanging out with Jimmy Stewart. That was, for 45 minutes. That was an amazing experience, and that was because I was doing the production for Debbie Reynolds at an event called the Thalian Ball, and that absolutely was a highlight of my life, to be able to hang out with such a megastar, and just being one-on-one in a room with him and just talking about life, which was really cool. And I guess a highlight of my life was to be on the road with Led Zeppelin and to be sitting at a table with Robert Plant, and at the hotel afterwards with the crew, and him talking to me and wondering what the hell I was doing on that show. How did an American get on the tour crew?
yeah. So what do you do here? Why are we paying you?"
Yeah, something like that. What the hell are you doing? How did you get here?
Septic. Yeah.
How did you get here? But the fact that he even knew that I was on the crew and that I was American, it was kind of he said, "What the hell?" Because I was the only American there.
Yeah. The other thing I would add, I collected on a 21-year-old debt when the Stones rolled through Tampa. I was like an A6. Just working on, wrapping cables. And Ronnie came over and said, "Do I know you?" And I said, "Yeah, mother effer. You owe me $400 from that poker game in Antwerp, in '83. So, and everybody else, their eyes were like huge open. I thought I was going to get fired immediately. But by the end of the show, stage manager came by and gave me an envelope with $1,000. And so I just said, "Well, tell Ronnie thank you, and I'll tear up his bounce check." Yeah.
No, that's very nice of you. Very, very nice of you. So, Fred, tell me, you must have a highlight of your life
I have several.
for all the
highlights.
shows that you.
I have
Yeah,
several
go ahead, tell me.
highlights. Back in the days of doing Tyson boxing for Showtime, very first pay-per-view show I ever did, I forget where, in the Midwest someplace, had an outstanding show. Get off the air and my door opens and there's like 5, $2,000 Armani suit guys standing there all waiting to shake my hand as I come out the door. And then we go back to the hotel. They bought us an entire ballroom downstairs in the hotel and stocked it with alcohol. And I almost missed the taxi the next morning. We were just having such a good time down there. But I'll tell you what, just this recent thing that I did, this Fox College football deal, I kind of got to experience what some of you guys get to do by being with a crew of people, the same people every week, using the same equipment. We'd show up, I was in the same truck. I mean, out of my 40-some-year career, I've never been in the same truck 2 days in a row. It's always, go in, 6 hours, you need to be on the air. Okay, well, I've never seen this console before, or, whatever. But I've got through those. But this college football thing was so cool. We had a traveling group that just melded together. And on a behind the scenes note, the people at Fox, we were the only crew. There was A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H. We were the D crew. We were the only crew that didn't get a single note from production in 12 weeks of football. And I was the mixer on that, so I feel pretty good about it.
Well done. I work on field in RF, and I'm telling you what, I've worked with all 4 of the major networks, and Fox, their team are just great. You know, they roll in, and I know my life is cool.
Yeah, I mean, it was just interfacing with people. Everything about it was so easy. There was no stress. Everybody did their job. It wasn't like, excuse me, I'm using this term, but being on a union gig where everybody only has their little thing to do. You know, everybody helped everybody. It was just like when I started television. You know, everybody was helping everybody else, and it was like a family. It was one of the coolest things I've got to experience in my life.
You know,
It was like a crew. Go ahead.
I got to back that up. I've done award show meetings and stuff for a lot of the networks, and so many of them are huge assholes. And for about 10 years, I did stuff for Fox Sports NFL, a lot of the business meetings where they would plan some of the, probably related to you, some of the trucking and, crews and stuff like that. And I'll tell you, the Fox people were some of the nicest people I ever worked with. And we always had a good time. They treated us great and we had fun. And,
yeah, that's what I'm saying. I've worked for Fox a couple times, but never been in a situation where I was hired for 3 solid months. And I can't say enough about them. And the engineering staff, these were all done as what are called home run productions. So basically I was mixing from the venue. The announcers were on site, but they were going back to Los Angeles. So there was actually another mixer downstream of me who was actually mixing the announcers with what I was doing. I was sending a 4.0 show and he was adding the announcers for the 5.1 and adding tape machines and music and all that stuff back there. But still, just the engineering crew to put that together. As we were going along, there were things, because this was kind of a new package for them. I would come up with ideas and I'd go, hey, is it possible to do this? And they'd go, yeah. And so we would integrate this thing. And by the second or third week, our announcers hated it the first day. And by the third week, they were just like, oh my God, this is so easy. Because I made a bunch of changes to that. We were using these Dante boxes that had 6 volume controls on it. So it was almost like doing it in Europe, where in Europe, here in the United States, you send an IFB mix and that's what the talent deal with. But in Europe, everything is separate.
Or you split it.
So yeah. So we basically did that on the Dante boxes we had here. So they had a feed of themselves, they had a feed of the color guy, they had a feed of the spare headset, they had a feed from Los Angeles, they had a feed from me, they had a feed from the play-by-play guy that we had to come in sometimes. He had a stats guy that was sitting in his couch at home, and he would call in, and I had that routed to a deal that would auto-latch. So he would call in, he could talk to the guy, he'd use one of the talkback buttons to talk back to him off air. I mean, just the routing and the stuff was just really cool. And it was all because I asked, and the engineer said, yeah, we could do that. But it wasn't part of their plan.
But now it is.
Well, who knows? Maybe they're going to take some of my suggestions. I don't know. But because we were the only crew out of 8 crews or whatever who had 0 notes from production, maybe they're going to take some of my suggestions and then we'll integrate them into next season. Or maybe we'll get to when basketball comes around, if it comes around with all this COVID stuff going on. I've been told that they want to hire me to do some basketball stuff. I haven't gotten any calls from anybody yet. Like I said, my next big thing is to go sit in Stanford for a month and mix speed skating.
Oh, wow. That would be fun. My choice is definitely going to be an issue for you. You should talk to Kurt. He's done unique miking of unique items.
I don't think I get a choice. I think that's probably already been predetermined or whatever. I'm just taking the feeds and mixing the show. So.
Fred, you were showing something, but because you weren't speaking, you didn't show. What was it you were showing?
I got to turn off the blur. Hold on 1 second here. Let me do this. Do the settings.
No, just the way it's set is that when you talk, that's when you get focused. But I'll tell you what, hold it up, and I'm just going to pin you, and then that way you will see it. Oh, look at that. What to know before you arrive.
Good luck with that.
Yeah, I think it's going to be fun. I'm looking at all the pictures of the facilities and the control rooms and just the safety protocols and things they've already got in place. I mean, I'm really looking forward to it. Actually, I'm going to be sitting in a TV truck out in the parking lot, from what I understand. And my friend Phil Adler, who I submixed for NFL a couple of years ago, he's going to be in the truck right next door. He's going to be doing all the downhill events. Matter of fact, I got a text from him this morning. He goes, "Yeah, I'm staying at the Grand Hyatt Hotel. It's about 8 minutes from where we're going to be working." And I said, "Well, unfortunately, I don't have my assignment yet because I've been in Washington for the last 3 weeks. I couldn't finish filling out my paperwork. I didn't have my passport. I didn't have my banking information. I didn't have a photo. So I sent all that stuff off yesterday. So hopefully it'll come through here in the next couple of hours and I will be approved. And then I get to move on to having another app on my phone from the Clear people. Because apparently Clear has a COVID tracking thing on their deal. I'm with TSA.
Yeah.
Little
It's well worth it to have it, Fred. But of course, depending on your airline and depending on where you're going, you still got to have another app that, says, here's my QR code. And
Well, I'm already on the national one. Every time I switch cities, it shows me a note and it says, "Hey, you got to go in here and tell us you're in this city now," or whatever. But I have to leave my Bluetooth on all the time. So at least one of those apps is on 24/7, and then the rest of them are just, when you show up at the stadium or you show up wherever, and they go, "Oh, you got to download this app to get your stuff to bed." Okay.
I have Clear and it has all my information on it, and I just touch that and it starts up and I go to that page and everybody's accepted it. You're talking about your history of your vaccines or whatever, right?
Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
just
the
all
health
these
app.
COVID tracking programs. I must have like 15 or 20 of them on my phone. I've dedicated a whole page for them just to be on there. But the one for the national deal, it runs 24/7. I can't shut it off unless I turn off the Bluetooth. And then it
what
goes,
else?
"Hey, your Bluetooth's turned off."
What else is a pain in the butt? All these companies now are using these hours tracking programs now too. I think, and I don't even W-2 for anybody, and I have like 4 stupid programs on my phone. I got to remember how to use all these things for, clocking in and clocking out and lunch break. It's just ridiculous. My invoice has all that on it. I just as soon just send them that at the end, and it's just gotten way too much pain in the ass.
They should be able to export that data, and then you don't even have to generate an invoice. Just copy and paste it.
And they all want to do direct deposit, and it's like, just send me a check. I want the paperwork. I'm so old.
Or give me cash.
Yeah, cash on
There's
site's
nothing
always good.
There's nothing wrong with cash.
Do you remember? You guys probably remember when we used to go to a show, and on our travel day, we'd have to show up in somebody's room, and they'd have stacks of $100 bills, and they would pay our per diem the day we got there in cash. Man, do I miss that! Oh my God, I miss that.
Yep. And
Yeah, those were the
fun
days.
night at the hotel bar that night. for
Yep,
sure.
yep. Over in the corner.
Another reason to hate Osama bin Laden. That's another reason.
Yeah, how things have changed in our time. I'll be honest with you, and you guys can all probably attest, but, a lot of the kids and the younger, the less than, the 30-somethings and less in a lot of cases, they all know like this way of doing things, like a lot of the people I work with have never had an analog console before. And, I gotta be honest with you, I'm 66 and I've been doing this since the mid-70s. And I'll tell you, it's been fun to be alive and watch this whole transition. And you know what? Here's the crazy part. Speakers are still pieces of paper vibrating. When are we going to get past that one?
As soon as we can directly modulate your middle ear.
Yeah.
Right.
I thought,
actually,
I thought maybe they would do
implants.
crystals at some point, or something that vibrated in a case, or that you could steer.
that's-
I don't know.
That's
Yeah,
the
but
I have
that's the
seen
basic
something.
microchip.
We
I have
need
seen
paper-
something.
we need
I've seen
paper
something where you
laser microphones.
Yeah, I've seen something where you attach a driver, just a metal magnet to a window, and the window becomes the speaker.
Oh, well,
But-
I've seen it in the other direction. But
Yeah,
Yep.
but sound is vibration, and until they can figure out another way to move the sound with another way of vibration, it's very, very difficult to come up with another
Well,
concept.
Yeah, but
Well,
many of us here have done large festivals, And, I've been on stage, at like Rock in Rio or Donington, and the artist claps their hand, and then you can see the actual physics of sound traveling, across the crowd by, what time they clap their hands. I don't need a smart meter. I don't need anything for that.
Right.
Math.
I think Bob Carver at one point was working on vibrating crystals, because it doesn't take an awful lot to put like 1K in a room, and then you can't even localize it, and you hear it everywhere, So I mean, I do talking heads. It's a lot harder to do like a full band and have it be loud. But you could, I can't imagine why, at some point we should be able to stick a guy on a stage with a little transducer thing that sticks on his neck, and then have.
And then everybody in the audience has the next evolution of the AirPod.
Something, or there's these little crystals or wires or something that vibrate, and his voice is in that range that you can hear. I don't know. I'm just dreaming now. But
I don't know, Bruce. You're talking about magical crystals and all kinds of, where's Narnia here, right? I mean,
yeah.
They came out.
They have them in radios. They're all crystals, and they do all kinds of crazy stuff.
They used
Are
to
you sure
have
about
them in
that?
radios.
Well, I heard this story about this guy named Jack and a beanstalk. I don't know. Maybe.
You're bad.
I think he's been visiting Sedona lately.
Yeah,
They have.
There's a mountain in Sedona. That's funny.
Kurt is
They
the
came out
king
with
of
this-
analog consoles. He's got the cream of the crop in his inventory. So
Yeah, but at any rate, it's been really fun to be in this business during this time frame, this 30 or 40 years, because so much has changed and it's gotten so good. And the problem is, we used to do tours in the 70s with like 2 guys in the local crew, and now there's like, a friend of mine's been doing a couple of tours, and there's like 5 guys. There's the RF guy, and there's the comm guy, and there's the networking guy, and there's the monitor guy. And now the front of house guy has a front of house assistant too. And he's not even the front of house guy isn't even the guy mixing the show. So, there's like 6 guys that tour with the PA now. Man, I was lucky to get one that knew what he was doing.
right.
Well, I'm with you on that.
I totally agree, Bruce. I mean, Nightbob, Rabbit, and I did Aerosmith from 75 to 77. We had
Just
4
the 2 of you, right?
Just the 3 of us with local crews.
Yeah. Just stack them up and plug them in.
It was great until we went to Chicago, because the Chicago local.
Welcome to local 2.
Yes.
Yeah.
No pain in the butt.
My big problem as an old guy is I know enough about networking to be dangerous. I mean, I can get my little pile of shit working, but boy, if something goes wrong, I'm lost. And Dante, a couple of Rios and some wireless mics on my console, I'm fine with. But some of these rigs, where we have 2 or 3 consoles and everything is Dante together and going to other rooms on fiber, I'm lost. I need, it's like, okay, we need a good systems guy for this, and I know who to call. But it's just, it's not like it used to be. You can't just pull out a module and replace the fader like you used to be able to, or like go to another snake channel. There's no snake channels anymore. If your snake goes down, it ain't one channel. It's like 100 of them, and the whole damn thing goes away.
You're
fiber optic,
right.
baby.
You're right, Bruce. And actually, I've been saying this for the last probably 10 or 15 years. It's a great time to be in audio, because I remember when we had to pick our own drivers to go on our own horns and build the plywood box,
Yep. You can change a driver during the show. I can remember sending guys into subwoofer cabinets with earplugs on to change woofer drivers.
or reconnect the wire that broke off. Yeah.
When everything was Hubble. Remember before there was real connectors? There was the stupid ones, with the little gators that you use in your house, right? But my PA in the 70s was all like Hubble, and
I couldn't.
Well, Bruce,
afford,
I got to hand it to
twist
you.
locks. I went to banana plugs.
well,
Bruce, I got to hand it to you. You figured out the one thing that is better today than it was when we were growing up.
PA system.
I
But you need 10 times more guys to run the damn thing.
The downside is
The
crippled-
labor's I'm sorry, Kurt, go ahead.
It's crippled a lot of innovation. I mean, there was a lot of innovation and a lot of barnstorming and a lot of guys like Schubert and those guys back in the day who had to create what they needed. And now it's also corporate and everything is the bottom line. No company would ever pay the money to build a console like a Gamble now. It's too expensive. There's not enough return on investment. So yeah, it's more convenient, but I'm in the sound business, not the convenience business. So
Right.
I'm not really interested in the convenience or the saving of the weight or the saving of the seats or, none of that is a criteria that I consider. I have to.
The other hard thing about the corporate side of it is too, and I did this. In fact, I still do this occasionally when I really want to learn something. Is like, I'll go out on a show for nothing to help somebody out, so that I'm not expected to do a job. I'm there so that I can learn how to do a job. And when I was young and even older, I used to tell people all the time, come with me on the gig and I'll teach you how to do this, and you can't do that anymore because it's an insurance issue and the corporates are like all frantic about that. I mean, you have to have exactly the people that you need there, and there's no place for somebody, in the comeuppance, to be there to help you on the crew without being paid and be technically a part of the crew
anymore.
No more intern.
Yeah, they have to be an employee. You're right.
It's even worse now with COVID.
It's terrible. How do you teach people how to do things? And they don't teach you squat in school. I keep talking to people that have all these degrees and they don't know how to coil a cable. They don't know the difference between a balanced and an unbalanced line. I mean, they don't teach them anything except sit behind this console that's already wired into a control room. And the class that I took, we were in a studio where there was nothing except the console sitting on a table, and we had to go in the closet and get out the outboard gear and the tape machines and wire the whole place and run snakes through the wall and into the recording rooms. And when we were done, we had to put it all back in the closet again. So the next guy who had a session had to get it all back out again. And you don't do that anymore. You walk in, you sit down, you push a button. I've had people ask me with degrees, so where's the echo knob? It's like, there's no fucking echo knob. You want echo, you got to go get it. Digital consoles have echo knobs now, but
you hand them a reel of tape and point at the old Studer that was modified. Yeah.
Oh,
right.
Yeah. It's the corporates of, there's some good things about everything being corporate, but boy, the most of it sucks. It's just, it's not, you can't, teach people anymore. It's not that family kind of.
Well, no, I think you identified something really important there, Bruce, because even on the entertainment side, corporate, you get fired for playing the wrong stinger, but a doctor can kill 3 patients and, go to the bank.
Oh, yeah.
But not that I'm bitter.
You're just reporting. You're just reporting.
Just telling the truth, man.
Hey,
corporate's the
I
bane
got
of
to
my
bury my
existence.
mistakes.
Boy, I know, yeah.
But no, in the old days, back when the drinking age was 18 in a lot of places, you could get up and coming people, guys and gals who said, I want to do what you do. And you could say, okay, let me hook you up with this bar gig. In 6 months, let me know if you still like the job, if you still like the craft. And if you do, I'll take you out of that bar and I'll bring you into the company. But first, I want to see if you have any aptitude. And second, if this is just going to turn you into a drunk or a cynical teenager.
Right.
Or both. But now we can't do that. You've got to be 21 to be in the club. You got to be 21 to work there. And by the time someone's 21, they've already made a number of career decisions. That means that our attracting them and training them in our industry is going to be a lot more difficult and a lot more expensive. And we've lost those. That's just one of several ways we've lost our ability to bring in new young people, get them excited about what we do, and give them a taste of reality, because people come out. I remember in the old analog days, you'd have the 4K or the H3000 sitting there and a double wide outboard, and the kids would come up and go, wow, did you go to school to learn that?
Yeah, they still ask me that all the time, yeah.
Oh, well, they don't talk to me.
Well, we got Josh in the room. We got Josh Zimmerman in the room.
Speaking of kids, yeah.
Speaking of kids, so Josh could give us a perspective from that.
Well, one of the theaters that I service in my area, it's actually at a high school, but it's a performing arts center. And what's really nice is they use their tech class that they want to use, their theater class that they want to earn extra credit, that they have a concert in there and we're in there. The kids will come in and they'll help wire up the PA, they'll help, fly the speakers, mount this, rig the speakers up. I mean, we work with them, and we've had probably in the last 10 years, we've had about 5 kids that have helped us that have gone on to work with national acts, or, done, theater stuff. So, there are still some schools that have theaters that bring in, somewhat of a national act. They'll use their tech kids to to work with them.
There's two high schools in the greater Los Angeles area, I could say, I suppose, that the theater managers, which is amazing, a high school's got a theater manager, and they're friends of mine, and they when they got the job, they had to retool the theater, and they put in new drapes, and they did lighting and sound, and I went down and helped them spec the PA, and then we went in and we tuned it and did the whole wireless mic thing, and I actually taught the kids how to do everything, and I still go down for like updated lessons on this and that and the other thing. But they had, you guys will appreciate this story, they had no budget for lights, and once I got done spending all the money on sound, so
That's unusual.
And that's the only important part.
at least I was able to, you know. So what my friend did was he ordered all the parts to the lights, because, you know, if they're not like really complicated moving, like they're park cans and stuff like that. And what they did was they ordered boxes and boxes of shells and shutters, and they built the lights almost from scratch, because they couldn't, you know, they had a maintenance budget, but they didn't have a purchase budget. So he put it all under maintenance, and he bought all the parts, and they sat on the floor in the theater and they built like 50 lights.
One of my local radio stations, back when they still had field reporters with recorders, the bench tech that had the contract with the radio station, because they didn't have a full-time engineer, he could never get money to replace things. You know, like if you remember the Marantz cassette recorders, you know, to have a decent, like a 635A or something, and they could never get money to replace that stuff. So what he would do is he would bill it out as repair parts and service, and then just buy a new unit and send it back to the client.
Yeah. We got an educator in the room. I don't know if he wants to say anything about it right now, but if he does, he can turn on his camera, and this would be an opportunity for him to share. But it's up to him. Anyway.
Oh, Mr. Littleson's in here.
Yeah.
Yes.
Hey,
yes.
John, how are you, buddy?
The Fresh Prince of Monterey.
Our educator.
Are you there? His face isn't moving.
No, he's got his camera shut off, so you know
I was
we'll give him a minute.
He is.
So
There he is. Look at that. So our educator.
So John, I came up for the for Car Week, and we did the show in the ballroom at the Monterey Convention Center, and I scoured the place looking for the room that you said the gear was supposedly going to get built into. Couldn't find it, so I got with one of the maintenance guys there, and they took me to a closet where all your stuff was, and I thought, what the hell happened? What's the update on that?
I think he's got to unmute his mic.
Yeah, no, sorry about that. I missed the question. I was multitasking. So
oh well, I went up to Car Week in Monterey.
yes,
and I did the RM auction in the main ballroom of the convention center, and my first day there, I kind of scoured the upstairs looking for your studio and couldn't find it, of course, and talked to one of the house guys, and they took me to a little spot in a corner in the back, you know. Cobwebs were, you know, boxes were all stacked up of the stuff that was supposed to go in the studio. I was wondering whatever happened with that.
the studio has been built.
Yes.
It did its first paid event the second week of December.
Wow,
and it's
that's
pretty amazing. And they're doing tours of it starting in January. So if direct message me or just contact the Monterey Convention Center, and
well, I'll be back in August at the latest.
well, hopefully you'll get back here before then.
Yeah.
You know, we in Monterey like people to come spend money and leave, but
Leave is the key word there, right?
See, I would assume that in Monterey, you just want them to send their money and not even come.
well, you know, it's all relative. But no, the studio is quite amazing,
Oh, that's great. That's great.
and Myers Audio, 6 Barco projectors, and 2 360, you know, a 360 set with 280-degree views.
Wow.
And their first event was a very successful fundraiser with some 2,000 people on Zoom during it. So
Wow,
it's going to be a pretty special space. I mean, there are similar places in Las Vegas, and there are places in Florida that have setups that have a similar look and feel. But if you have to pick a place to go do an event, why not Monterey?
For sure. Well, at least I know if there's a brochure or if you can send me a link on it, because sometimes
Yeah,
people
there
will
is.
ask me.
It got written up in AV meeting, and there's pictures. And I've got some pictures. So
Oh, great. Okay.
Drop a link in the chat.
yeah.
Because people
Matt.
people often say to me, "Where can I do this?"
Oh,
And
okay.
if
Let
you-
me. I see chat works here. Let me pull the link for it.
Yeah, that'd be great. Thank you.
Yeah,
So
John,
we
are
were
you
talking
doing,
about education and people coming into our industry. You have any comments on that, John?
Well, it's been an interesting time because first I need to do my disclaimer. I'm a retired professor, so I haven't been actively teaching in the classroom for probably 10 years. But during my 30 years in the classroom, I started with teaching video production and worked my way to do more work with computers and instructional design. But my background, my high school days were in working in the AV club and theater. And my summers while I was at college was working at an equity theater, Kenley Players. 12 shows a summer, week long in the 3 cities. So my heart is there. And but I sort of, the way you get into this field is first the bug has to bite you. And then in universities, there's not only learning the craft, whether it be television production or computer programming, but there's a whole nother set of courses that make you a more rounded person, give you a different perspective in life. And I think many students really just want to get into the production aspect and not get that broader education. But I think for those students who get that broader picture, then getting into the field, it's just having the opportunity to internship and see it in action. I think working professional theater, professional audio, traveling with shows, it's a bug that bites you, but you don't get that reading about books or taking classes about it. You get it going out into the field.
Yeah. And then the challenge is now, are there any internships? I mean, Fred, is there any internships in your program?
Well, with Crass, I used to be able to bring kids out when Pac-12, when somebody would show up over at ASU, I'd bring kids out there because it was outdoors. It was all before COVID times. But, right now we're having this big shortage of audio people. And, we want to get some people, I want to get some new people in the market. We've got 4, maybe 5 guys here in Phoenix. But, we're in our 60s, we're not going to be doing this, another decade or so. So we need to bring some new people in. But now with COVID, it's kind of put a big kibosh on having people come in and shadow you and sit and do that. I had offered, there's a kid that's supposedly came out of Crass that's really interested in doing this sort of stuff. He went down and worked with my friend at the Suns a couple weeks ago, but really it just didn't pan out. So I was thinking about possibly bringing him into the studio and doing the studio side of the Suns shows that we do down at the Cronkite School. But with COVID, I can't get him in the building.
Yeah. It's a challenge right now. There's a lot of challenges that we all have to face as we go through. But one of the things we've been online for so long right now, so I want to just offer it up to the room. If there's anybody that wants to say anything to those people that are listening to us on Facebook or YouTube in the future, if they're not looking at it now and they happen to pick us up for whatever reason, does anybody want to say anything to them, or should we say goodbye to those people now?
Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. Hopefully 2022 will be better than the last couple of years, even though we're kind of going into this new super spreader thing. Just hopefully this is going to be the end of it. That's what I'm looking for.
I hope so too.
Well, they say the Omicron thing is a very watered down version, and that's what starts to happen when it starts dissipating, because it's multiplied so many times. So we can just cross our fingers.
Yeah, one of our friends was in the room earlier. He left, but he caught it, and his whole crew caught it, and he doesn't even realize he has it if it wasn't for the testing. So yeah, it is getting weaker, and but it's still there, and there's always a possibility that it'll mutate again, and hopefully it'll even more dissipate so that it becomes a non-issue. But it's something that we have to think about for the future, because something else could come along that's going to be even more devastating.
Also, did you guys hear that the
On an
military-
optimistic note, of course.
Yeah, the military's been working on a vaccine for the 2 years, and I think they're in the second trials now. It's getting pretty close to being rolled out. So, supposed to be the virus buster, you know?
Yeah, no,
Right.
it's not just COVID, but like 7 different
Yeah,
viruses.
7 different viruses. Yeah,
and coronaviruses as a class.
yeah.
So
yeah.
Right.
So
and that
cross your
includes
fingers.
flu and pneumonia right there.
This might
Yeah,
be a
you're
really
right.
good
Yep.
year.
And it's a cure for baldness and for blindness. So actually, it's everything, and it'll also make you more potent in bed. So there you have it. It's an amazing cure for everything. It's whatever ails you, you know? Anyway, with that, thanks everybody for watching us on Facebook and YouTube. Just remember, everything you heard was an opinion. Do your own research, and have a very happy and a healthy new year. Be safe, stay healthy, and remember, you make it happen. We'll see you again next week, and we're going to stay in the room and talk some more. So you don't